Tokyo in February is not cruel the way people imagine cruelty. It does not scream or rage, it simply withdraws. The warmth leaves quietly from the air, from the streets, from the faces of strangers who have learned to look away. Rain falls in freezing sheets across the neon-lit streets of Shinjuku. Salary workers hurry past with umbrellas. Taxis splash through black puddles. The world is wet and indifferent. At the end of a pristine cobblestone lane kept deliberately separate from the chaos of the main street, stands Kurohane. The restaurant exists in a different register entirely. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls glow with warm amber light. Cherry blossom arrangements float in illuminated alcoves. Through the glass, the silhouettes of Tokyo's wealthiest citizens move like shadows in a lantern. Bronze placard beside the entrance reads simply, "You'd it by reservation only." The security guard, Noda, stands at the entrance in a charcoal suit. He is about to check his phone when something catches his eye. He steps forward, stops, in the narrow gap between the restaurant wall and the sculpted hedge, a space barely wide. Enough to be called a corner is a child. Hannah is 6 years old. She wears a thin school uniform, the white collar gray with dirt, the navy skirt torn at the hem. Her feet are bare on the frozen cobblestones. Her dark hair hangs in uneven clumps against a face so pale it seems translucent. On her left cheek, just below her eye, a bruise blooms purple yellow, days old, not yet faded. In her arms, she clutches a small stuffed tanuki, the Japanese raccoon dog of folklore, the symbol of good fortune. Its fabric ear has been torn and resewn so many times the thread has become part of the creature's identity. Its painted smile is worn to a ghost. Hannah's dark eyes, enormous, ancient, impossibly still, watch Noda. Approach, she does not run, she does not beg. She simply watches him with the patience of a child who has long since stopped expecting anything from adults, and yet has not quite stopped hoping. Noda raises his hand to wave her away from the entrance. Hannah. Her voice barely carries over the rain, but each word lands like a stone sumimasen. "Excuse me, do you know anyone? Who wants a child?" Noda's hand freezes in midair. Hannah continuing, softer, as if speaking to the tanuki, "I promise I'll be good. I know how to fold laundry. I know how to sweep. I can be very quiet. I don't eat very much. The smallest pause, I just need somewhere that no one hits me." The words are not rehearsed. They are clumsy and honest in the way only a child can be. A child who has reduced her own worth to a list of chores. Who has learned to justify her existence through usefulness, the purr of an engine. Headlights sweep the lane. A black Lexus LS glides to the curb with the silent precision of a predatory animal. The rear door opens. Ryu Tanaka steps out. He is 41. Tall for a Japanese man, broad through the shoulders, precise in his movements. He wears a charcoal overcoat over a dark suit, no tie, top button open. His black hair carries threads of silver at the temples. His face is angular. It's composed, the kind of face that has decided long ago to reveal nothing. His eyes are the color of deep water. They move with the automatic sweep of someone who has survived by seeing everything first. Ryu Tanaka, owner of Kurohane. Controlling interest in 43 businesses across Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto. The man whose name appears nowhere in any legal document connected to the Tanaka-gumi, and yet whose name is spoken in whispers in every room of consequence in this city. Hannah. Hannah. Asterisk, no one usually wants to know my name. Something shifts in Ryu's eyes. Fast. Gone before it arrives. Ryu. I want to know. Hannah tilts her head. As though this is the strangest thing she has ever heard. Ryu reaches up and unbuttons his overcoat. He drapes it over her shoulders, a coat worth more than most people's monthly salaries. The hem pulls on the wet cobblestones around her bare feet. Hannah flinches. A full-body reflex, shoulders up, chin down. The flinch of a child who has learned that hands moving toward her mean pain. Ryu pauses. Doesn't push. Doesn't rush. He simply lets the coat rest on her shoulders. then rises to his full height. He turns to Kenji, his second in command, who has materialized silently from the passenger seat. Watching everything, Ryu, his voice has returned to its usual register, controlled. Precise, but underneath is something Kenji has never heard in 12 years. Uchi-ni. Bring her inside. Call Saito-sensei now. Kenji nods once. Doesn't ask. In 12 years, he has never seen Ryu Tanaka kneel before anyone. Tonight, everything is different. The sliding glass doors part. Warm air rushes out. Hana stands at the threshold, drowning in Ryu's overcoat, the tanuki clutched to her chest. Her bare feet hover above the polished hinoki cypress floor, pale, cracked, raw from the cold. She doesn't step inside. Kenji gently to Jubu. It's okay. Come in, Hana. Barely audible. I'll make the floor dirty. Kenji is quiet for a moment. Kenji, the floor can be cleaned. Come inside. You'll freeze out there. Hana hesitates. Then carefully, slowly, she steps onto the cypress floor and walks on her tiptoes. Each step placed with the deliberate silence of a child who has learned that making noise has consequences. The restaurant falls silent. Kadohane, on a Wednesday evening, is never quiet. Paper lanterns cast gold across white linen tables. A koto plays softly through concealed speakers. The air carries the scent of dashi and yuzu, an extraordinary expense. Now, every head turns. A woman in a Hermes scarf stares openly. A politician in a bespoke suit forgets his chopsticks halfway to his mouth. A sommelier freezes with a bottle of koshu. Wine half-tilted. Whispers move through the room like wind through bamboo. Hana hears them. Her shoulders rise. Her chin drops. She makes herself smaller, but she keeps walking. One silent step, then another. Yuki Harada intercepts them before they reach the corridor. The general manager of Kurohane is 45, precise, efficient. A woman who runs the most exclusive restaurant in Tokyo like a symphony conductor. Her navy suit is unwrinkled. Her composure never cracks. It is cracking now. Why UKI low? Clipped Kenji-san. What exactly are YU from directly behind them? Why UKI-san. One word. Flat, quiet, the kind of quiet that ends conversations. YUKI turns. Ryu walks through the door behind them, sleet still caught in his silver-threaded hair. Without his overcoat, he looks somehow more dangerous. The way a blade looks more dangerous when it's been drawn. He looks at... Yuki just looks. YUKI steps aside without another word. Ryu passes her without acknowledgement. His eyes find Hana small, shivering. The coat dragging on the floor behind her, and something in his jaw tightens. Or YU quietly? Not to Kenji, to her. This way. Hana looks up at him. Exhaustion and confusion and the very faintest ember of something that might be hope. She follows. Asterisk, a small room. Warm and quiet. Tasteful. A low chabudai table, floor cushions, a paper screen lamp casting honeyed light. Far from the dining room's performance, Ryu opens the door. Gestures inside. Are why you wait here? Someone will bring you food and warm tea. Hana steps into the room. Then she turns back. Hana, barely a whisper. I'm sorry for making your floor dirty. Ryu goes still. He looks at this child, apologizing for the footprint she left on a floor that will be cleaned in 60 seconds. RYU. Don't apologize. Asterisk, not for that. Not ever. He closes the door gently. Pulls out his phone. It rings twice before a woman answers. Dr. Saito, Ryu Tanaka-san. It's past 11, Ryu Saito-sensei. Come to Kurohane tonight. Silence on the line. Dr. Saito, Ryu, what happened? Ryu looks at the closed door. Ryu, there's a child. She needs to be examined. A longer pause. Dr. Saito, Ryu. I'm on my way. The line goes dead. Ryu stands alone in the corridor. He stares at the closed door. In 20 years of building his empire, he's never brought anyone into Kurohane who didn't belong to his world. He has never shown weakness, his or anyone else's, within these walls. Tonight, he's carried a half-frozen child through his front door. He doesn't know why. All he knows is that when he looked into those eyes, those ancient, exhausted, hopeless eyes, he saw someone else. Someone he lost a long time ago. Ryu to the empty corridor. Barely a sound, not this time. Dr. Mia Saito arrives 26 minutes after the call. Small, precise, gray-streaked hair. The eyes of a woman who has seen too much to flinch at anything. She has been Ryu Tanaka's private physician for 13 years. She has stitched knife wounds, treated injuries she was never asked about, and never once asked how they occurred. Tonight, she will ask nothing either. She steps through the door and stops. The food on the table. Rice porridge. Pickled vegetables, a cup of green tea is untouched. The tea has gone cold, and in the far corner, pressed into the angle where two walls meet, Hana sits curled into herself, knees drawn to her chest, arms wrapped around them, the tanuki tucked under her chin. Ryu's overcoat still draped over her thin shoulders like armor. Her eyes are open, tracking every movement in the room with the hypervigilance of a prey animal. Dr. Saito, soft, gentle, setting down her bag slowly. No sudden movements. Konnichiwa. My name is Mia. I'm a doctor. I'm here to help you, Hana. Presses harder into the corner. Dr. Saito takes another step forward. Hana flinches, a full body recoil, her arms coming up around her head. Asterisk. Hana, no, please, I'll be good. I'll be quiet. Please, why are you from the doorway, Hana? He steps into the room. Dr. Saito moves aside without being asked. Ryu walks to the corner where Hana is trembling. He doesn't reach for her, doesn't crowd her. He simply lowers himself to the floor, back against the adjacent wall, and sits. Beside her, at her level, within reach, but not touching, Ryu quiet, steady. The doctor needs to look at you. To make sure you're okay? She won't do anything you don't want. A beat, I promise. Hana's breathing is rapid, shallow. But something in her expression shifts, a hairline fracture in the wall of terror. Hana, barely audible, will you stay? Ryu, I'll stay. He extends his hand. Palm up. Open. Untrained. Hana stares at that hand for a long moment, the calculation of a creature that has been hurt every time it trusted. Then, slowly, she places her tiny fingers across his palm and holds on. Dr. Saito steps into the corridor where Ryu waits. Her face is pale. Her clinical composure is intact barely. Dr. Saito, severe malnutrition. Stage 3. Her stomach has shrunk significantly. She hasn't eaten properly in weeks, possibly longer. Ryu says nothing. He listens. Dr. Saito to broken ribs on her left side. Never set. Never treated. They've healed at the wrong angles. She's likely been in constant pain for months. His hands curl slowly at his sides. Dr. Saito, 7 circular burn scars on her arms and thighs. Cigarette burns. Deliberate, evenly spaced. At least 14 lash marks on her back. Different stages of healing, which means they occurred over an extended period. A pause. 2 fingernails on her right hand were ripped out. They haven't fully grown back. Quieter and first-degree frostbite on both feet. She's been walking barefoot in the cold for hours. Possibly longer. The corridor is silent. Dr. Saito, her clinical voice fails her for just a moment, Rusain. This is not abuse. This is systematic torture. Someone did this to her deliberately, repeatedly, over a long period of time. Ryu turns and walks back into the room. Hana is still in the corner, clutching the tanuki, watching the door. When she sees him, something in her small body releases just a fraction. He crouches in front of her. Eye level, Ryu soft, but with steel beneath it. Hana, who did this to you? Hana looks at him with those ancient eyes. When she speaks, there is no anger, no accusation. Only the quiet acceptance of a child who has been taught that pain is simply the weather of her life. Hana, I was bad. A small pause. So, I was punished. Something breaks behind Ryu's eyes. Not visibly. Not loudly. Only the way ice breaks in spring, a quiet fracture, a giving way. He doesn't ask another question. He simply sits down beside her, back against the wall. Shoulder close enough to feel without crowding. Stays. Because somewhere beneath 20 years of power and ruthlessness and carefully constructed cold, a 17-year-old boy remembers another little girl he couldn't save. A girl whose face he sees every time he closes his eyes. Narrator VO. Not this time. Whatever it takes. Not this time. The room is beautiful. Hannah stands in the doorway, the tanuki pressed against her chest, and stares. A real bed. Not a futon on a cold floor. A real bed. With white sheets and a cloud-soft cake-bootin' duvet, and pillows that look like they've never been slept on. A shoji lamp casting warm light. Actual curtains. A thick tatami mat that looks softer than anything she's ever touched. YUK. Harada had brought her here after Dr. Saito finished bandaging her feet. The woman's face had been stiff, unreadable, but her voice had been almost gentle. This is your room. For tonight, Hannah understood those words. She had heard them before. She walks to the far corner of the room, the corner that lets her see the door, and sits on the tatami, pulls her knees to her chest, wraps Ryu's coat tighter around her small frame. Corners are safe. In corners, no one can come up behind you. On the low table by the bed, someone has left a tray, rice porridge, steamed egg custard, a small cup of warm milk, a single mochi with red bean paste. Hannah's stomach cramps with hunger, but she doesn't eat yet. First, she saves, with practiced hands. She takes 2 rice crackers from the side of the tray and slips them into the deep pocket of the coat. She takes the mochi and wraps it in a napkin. In case they kick her out tomorrow, in case she has to leave, only then does she eat small bites, slow, making it last. Her shrunk stomach can't hold much. She's learned this the hard way. When she finishes half the porridge, she stops, wraps the rest. Then she goes back to her corner. She takes the tanuki out from under the coat and holds it close to her face. The worn fabric smells like rain and cold pavement, and something faint she can barely remember Hannah whispering to Nuchan. Do you think they'll let us stay? She strokes the torn ear. Hannah, I know. Probably not. A small, careful breath, but maybe if I'm really, really good. If I don't make noise, don't eat too much. Don't make anyone angry. Her voice cracks. Hannah, I tried to be good to Nuchan. I really tried. Why does everyone still send me away? She presses her face into the tanuki's worn body. She doesn't sleep. She can't sleep. Every sound makes her flinch. The hum of the kitchen somewhere below, footsteps in the corridor. The building settling in the cold. She has to watch the door. She has to be ready. Ryu moves quietly down the corridor. He has spent hours in his office, staring at reports he cannot read. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees the cigarette burns, the lash marks, the ribs that healed wrong. He passes Hannah's door and stops. A thin line of amber light glows beneath it. He moves closer. Through the narrow gap between the door and the frame, he can see inside. Hannah is not in the bed. She is in the far corner, wrapped in his coat, clutching her tanuki, eyes wide open, watching the door, waiting the way a small animal waits for the next thing that will hurt it. Something twists in Ryu's chest, sharp, unfamiliar. He raises his hand to knock. To go in, to tell her she is safe, that no one will come, that she doesn't have to keep watch anymore. He stops himself, because he knows. With the instinct of someone who has survived his own darkness, that words mean nothing yet. Not to a child who has learned that every promise is a trap. Trust cannot be told. It has to be shown slowly, over time. So Ryu lowers his hand. And he stands there outside the door in the dark corridor for a very long time, watching over her, the way he wished someone had watched over Akemi 20 years ago. Then he turns and walks to the chair at the end of the corridor, close enough to hear if she screams, far enough not to frighten her. He sits, and when the first gray light of dawn comes through the high windows, he is still there. Asterisk Sujin Park, anti-Jin to everyone in the kitchen. Not that anyone dares say it to her face, arrives before the sky is fully light. She is 52. Korean-Japanese, born in Osaka, trained in Seoul, lured to Tokyo 15 years ago by Ryu Tanaka's absurd offer and his even more absurd kitchen. She is compact and fierce and moves through this space with the authority of someone who has earned every inch of it. She turns on the lights, freezes a small figure, crouches beside the recycling bin in the corner. Tiny hands are sorting through discarded vegetable trimmings, broken rice crackers, scraps of food that haven't been there long enough to spoil. Han, still in Ryu's overcoat. The tanuki tucked under one arm, is eating garbage. She does it with the efficient calm of someone who has done this many times. Sujin does not yell, does not scold, does not make a sudden movement. She has grown up in kitchens. She recognizes hunger. Real hunger. The kind that lives in the body like a permanent tenant. She walks to the reach-in refrigerator, pulls out ingredients, sets a pot on the gas flame, begins to work. Hannah freezes, watching her, the posture of a creature calculating whether to run. Sujin works in silence. Soft doenjang gije, Korean fermented soybean paste stew, fragrant and warm, the smell that means home in her bones. She adds tofu, zucchini, mushrooms, ladles it into a bowl, sets it on the prep counter near Hannah, adds a bowl of steamed white rice. Then she sits on an overturned milk crate. At a careful distance, Su-Jin, her soul-accented Japanese, perfectly calm in my grandmother's kitchen. We had a rule. No one eats from the floor. Hannah doesn't move. Her eyes go between Sujin and the bowl. Sujin, it's not poison. I make this every morning. Watch, she takes a spoon, scoops from the bowl, eats Sujin, my Halmoni's recipe. She would rise from her grave and hit me with a wooden spoon if a child ate trash in my kitchen. Slowly, very slowly, Hannah creeps forward. She sniffs the bowl, looks at Sujin, looks at the stew, picks up the spoon, takes the tiniest bite. Her eyes go wide. It is warm, is soft. It tastes like something from a dream she almost remembers, a dream of kitchens and laughter and someone who loved her. She takes another bite, then another. Sujin watches her eat, her heart aching in a way she hasn't let it ache in years. Sujin quietly, I have a niece, Jian. She's 7. Lives in Busan with my sister. Hannah pauses, a grain of rice on her lip. Sujin, I haven't seen her in 2 years. Too much work. Always too much work. I tell myself, next Chuseok. Next Chuseok I'll go. But next Chuseok never comes. She looks at Hannah, at her thin face, at the way she curves protectively around her bowl. Sujin, she has these big eyes, Jian, always asking questions. Why is the sky blue? Why do cats purr? I miss her very much. Hannah, simple, honest, why don't you go see her? The question cut Sujin deeper than any blade in her kitchen. Su-Jin quietly, I don't know. Sometimes grown-ups are foolish. We forget what matters. Hannah considers this. Nods with the gravity of someone who has thought about this themselves. When the bowl is empty, Sujin takes it and returns with something new. A small onigiri rice ball, but shaped carefully into a tanuki. Round belly, tiny ears, a smile pressed in with a chopstick. A sprig of pickled plum for the nose, Su-Jin with a chef's dignity for you. Hannah stares at the tanuki. Onigiri, her eyes fill. She doesn't eat it. Hannah, barely a whisper, Can I keep it? Just to remember. In case I have to leave and forget what it looks like? Sujin has to look away for a moment. Pretends to check the flame on the stove. Su-Jin, her voice rough. You eat this one? Tomorrow I make another. The day after, another. Every morning, a new one. So you never have to remember because you will always have more. Hannah blinks, as if the concept of always is a word in a language she hasn't learned yet. But she picks up the tanuki onigiri. and she eats it slowly, carefully, as if it is the most precious thing she has ever held. When she finishes, she looks at Sujin. Something new is in her eyes. Something that wasn't there before. Hannah, thank you. Auntie Jin. The name slips out before she can stop it. Sujin's heart cracks wide open. No one has called her that. No one outside her own family? She clears her throat. Turns back to the stove. Su-Jin gruff. You're welcome, little one. Now, I need someone to taste my soup. Very important job. You think you can help? Hannah nods. Clutches the tanuki tighter. And for the first time since she arrived at Korahane, something that might be the beginning of a smile touches the corner of her lips. Asterisk. Corridor that the staff does not use. Ryu stands before a door at its end. Simple, wooden, unremarkable, except for the lock, heavy-grade steel. The kind meant for vaults, for things too valuable or too painful to leave unprotected. He holds a key. The metal is warm from being held too long. He unlocks the door. The room exhales stillness. He steps inside, closes the door, finds the light toys a collection of figures along one shelf. Doraemon. Totoro, a small ceramic tanuki identical to Hannah's stuffed one. A low bookshelf. Momo, the never-ending story in translation, a stack of picture books in Japanese. Guri Tagura, Ukamikun, a dozen others, their spines cracked from being read over and over. A child's room? Frozen in time, everything covered in the thinnest layer of dust. But beneath the dust preserved, perfect. The small futon made neatly. The pink kitatsu table still set with a tiny teacup. As if someone might return at any moment. As if someone has been waiting 20 years or why. Yu walks to the low desk and picks up a framed photograph. A little girl. Dark eyes bright as stars. A gap-toothed grin, unself-conscious and full of life. She holds a white stuffed tanuki, almost identical to Hannah's, and laughs at whoever holds the camera, Kema, his sister. His responsibility, his greatest failure? The photograph trembles in his hands. Asterisk A. 17-year-old Ryu walks home from school with a small girl beside him. Akemi, 6 years old, pigtails, a rando Saru school bag bouncing on her back, chatters without pause. Her hand tucked trustingly in her big brother's. Akemi, Nissan. Do you think Oka-san will put my drawing on the refrigerator? I drew our whole family. Even the cat. Young Ryu smiling, of course she will. I promise, Mimi.K, my pinky promise. She holds out her pinky. He hooks his around it. The black van comes from nowhere. Tires screech. The side door slams open. Hands large, rough, purposeful. Akemi screams .NII-san. Or why you? He lunges. Catches her arm. Pulls with everything he has. But he is 17, and they are grown men. There are too many of them. Something hard connects with the back of his head, white, then red, then nothing. The last thing he hears is his sister's voice, pulling away from him, getting smaller. NII-san. Please, Ryu-chan. Then silence. Asterisk Ryu woke in a hospital 3 days later. His mother sat beside the bed, her face hollow, her eyes dead. She could not look at him. Akemi was gone. No ransom, no demands, no trace. The police searched for months, then weeks, then not at all. His mother returned to their empty apartment and never left it. His father drank himself into a stranger, and Ryu buried everything, every memory, every feeling, every fragment of the boy who had failed his sister on the way home from school. He built walls. He built an empire. He became the Black Hawk, and he swore on his sister's memory. On his mother's grave, on every broken piece of himself that he would never be powerless again. Asterisk, the photograph stares up at him, dark eyes, a gap-toothed smile. 6 years old, just like Hannah. He had noticed it the moment he saw her in the snow. The resemblance was not physical. Hannah's nothing like Akemi to look at. But the eyes, the weight behind them. The way she carried grief she was too young to name. Akemi's eyes had always been bright with trust. She had believed right to the last moment that her big brother would protect her. Hannah's eyes believed in nothing, expected nothing, hoped for nothing. Somehow that was worse. Ryu to the empty room, barely a breath. I couldn't save you. I've carried that for 20 years. Every night I hear you calling my name. His jaw tightens, but she's here. This little girl who appeared from nowhere, asking if anyone wanted her. He sets the photograph down. His hand lingers on the frame. Ryu, this time, whatever it takes. This time, he walks out and locks the door behind him. In the room, in the darkness, the toys wait, and somewhere 2 floors below, a little girl with dark eyes sleeps fitfully in a corner, clutching a worn stuffed hand. She doesn't know it yet, but someone has decided to stay. Asterisk. Narrator VO. 1 week passed. Small changes crept in the way spring does in Tokyo before the cherry blossoms. When you can't quite point to what's different, but you feel the cold releasing its grip, Hannah stopped hiding food on the 5th day. Not all at once, the habit was too deep for that. But day by day, the rice crackers disappeared from her pockets. She stopped wrapping her mochi in napkins. On the 7th day, she left her evening milk untouched on the tray. She did not pocket it before bed. She didn't trust that food would always be there. But she was just beginning to believe it might be there tomorrow. Auntie Jin became her constant. Every morning at 5, Hannah materialized in the kitchen like a small ghost in an oversized coat, climbed onto her stool. Everyone understood this, and watched and talked and asked questions in her quiet voice. Auntie Jin, what's that white block? Tofu, little one, Dean curd. Very good for you. Why is it so wobbly? Because good things should be soft. Here, stir this. She stirred with the seriousness of someone diffusing a bomb. Auntie Jin watched her small hands on the wooden spoon and felt something rearrange itself in her chest. She called her sister in Busan that night. She had not called in for months. When Jian's voice came on the line, sleepy, surprised, emo, "Is that really you?" Sujin cried into her pillow like a child. She had booked her ticket to Busan. She was going next month. YUKI. Harada kept her distance at first. She watched, evaluated, waited for the catch. But days passed, and there was no catch. Only a small child who said "Sumai Mason" and "Arigato gozaimasu" with the formality of someone who had been taught that courtesy was survival. On the 4th day, Yuki brought Hannah a set of colored pencils and a drawing pad. "I found these in the supply room," she said stiffly. From a charity event, Hannah had looked up at her. Those enormous dark eyes, that careful, measuring gaze. Asterisk and Yuki Harada, who trusted no one who hadn't earned it, felt her chest tighten in a way she hadn't expected. Now, a week later, Hannah could look her in the eyes, briefly, nervously, but she could. Asterisk. But there was one person Hannah could not look at. Every time Ryu entered a room, she shrank, made herself smaller, pressed against the nearest wall, or hid behind Auntie Jin, or simply froze, eyes on the floor, body rigid. She never spoke to him willingly, never approached him, or why you kept his distance. Deliberately, carefully, never walked too close, never raised his voice in her presence, never made a sudden movement when she was near. It didn't help. She was still afraid of him. Asterisk. Kenji finds Ryu staring at nothing. Kenji, she's doing better. Jinsen says she laughed today. Actually laughed. First time since she came. Ryu says nothing. Kenji. Yuki-san is warming up. Dr. Saito says the frostbite is healing another week and she'll be in proper shoes. Ryu. She's afraid of me. The words fall flat into the silence. Kenji pauses, nods slowly. Ryuy. I haven't raised a hand to her. Haven't raised my voice. I've barely spoken to her at all. Kenji walks to the window. Looks out at the Shinjuku lights. Kenji, you remember what Saito-sensei said about the injuries? About who did them? Or why you quietly a man did those things? Kenji, a man she trusted? A man who was supposed to protect her. And when she looks at you, tall, powerful, someone who controls every room he walks into. She doesn't see Ryu Tanaka. A beat. She sees him. Silence, Kenji. She's not afraid of you specifically. She's afraid of what you represent. Every man who ever hurt her, every man who ever could. Ryu closes his eyes. The cigarette burns. 7 of them, evenly spaced. The ribs that healed wrong because no one took her to a doctor. A man had done that. A man she had called family. Ryu rough. What do I do? Kenji turns from the window. He looks at his boss, this man he has followed for 12 years. This man who built an empire from grief. This man who has never once asked anyone what to do. He sees, for the first time, something he has never seen in Ryu Tanaka's face. Helplessness. Kenji, you wait. You give her space. You let her see day after day, week after week, that you're not like him. That not every man is a monster. A pause, and when she's ready, if she's ever ready, you let her come to you? Ryu? And if she's never ready? Asterisk, Kenji, simply then you keep waiting. A longer pause. It's what fathers do. The word hangs in the air. Father, Ryu, says nothing. But something shifts in his chest. A door long sealed. Opening a crack, he would wait. However long it took. Asterisk. The scream shatters the silence. High, piercing, primal, the kind. Sound that comes from somewhere deeper than the throat. Ryu is out of his room before his eyes fully open. He runs down the corridor in bare feet, his heart hitting his ribs. He reaches Hannah's door first. He pushes it open. Dark. The paper lantern has been knocked over. The only light comes from the corridor, and in the far corner, the same corner. Always the same corner, Hannah sits in a tight ball, arms wrapped around her head. Rocking Hannah, screaming, "No, no, please don't put me in there. I'll be good. I'll be quiet. Please, it's dark. I can't breathe." Her eyes are open, but she is not here. She is somewhere else. Somewhere dark and cold. Ryu crouches 3 feet away. Ryu quietly, "Hannah, you're at Kurohane. You're safe." She doesn't hear him. "Ruhana, listen to my voice. No one is going to lock you anywhere. No one." The screaming fades to whimpers. Her rocking slows. "Ryu, you're here. In your room. Remember Auntie Jin made you a tanuki onigiri this morning? Yuki-san braided your hair." Hannah's arms loosen. Her breathing is still ragged, but the panic is receding. "Ryu, you're safe. I promise." Slowly, Hannah's eyes focus. She blinks. The nightmare releases its grip, and reality crawls back in. She sees the room. The overturned lantern. The corridor light. She sees Ryu crouched before her, his eyes soft in a way she has never seen. Her face crumples. Hannah, tears streaming. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I tried not to scream. I tried, Ryu. Don't apologize." She flinches at his voice but doesn't pull away. "What did you dream?" Hannah, her lower lip trembles. "The storage room. A beat when I was bad. Would lock me in the storage room under the kitchen. It was dark. No windows. Cold. I would scream, and nobody came." Her voice breaks. "Hannah, I'm scared of the dark. I know I'm too old. I know big girls aren't scared of the dark. But I can't. Ryu stands. Hannah shrinks back, expecting him to leave. He walks to the wall, and he turns on every light. The overhead, the desk lamp, the closet, the bathroom. Every switch, every fixture, every possible source of warmth and light in the room. The darkness disappears entirely. Then he comes back to the corner, and he sits down. Not on the bed, not on the chair, on the floor. Beside her, his back against the wall, Hannah staring at him. "What are you doing?" "Or why you sitting, Hannah?" "But why?" "Or why you simply because you're scared. And no one should be scared alone." Hannah stares at this man, this powerful, the terrifying man sitting on her floor in the middle of the night, so she won't be afraid. "Or why you? I'll stay here until you sleep." The lights will stay on. No one will lock you anywhere. A pause if you have another nightmare. I'll be right here. Fresh tears spill down Hannah's face. But these are different tears. She doesn't move closer. She isn't ready for that. But she doesn't move away either. She curls up in her corner, clutching the tanuki, and closes her eyes. For the first time in as long as she can remember, she falls asleep knowing someone is there. Asterisk. Morning light bleeds soft through the curtains. Hannah stirs, blinks. For a moment, she doesn't know where she is. Then she remembers. She looks to her left. Ryu is still there. Still against the wall, his head tilted back, his half closed with exhaustion. He's not moved all night. Hannah barely a whisper. You didn't leave Ryu? No. Hannah, why? Or why you quietly because I promised? Something shifts in Hannah's chest. A single brick, loosened from a very high wall. She doesn't smile. She isn't ready for that. But she looks at him. Really looks at him. For the first time since she arrived, and she is not afraid. Asterisk Ryu is at his desk, staring at documents he cannot read. When a soft knock comes, so soft he almost misses it, Ryu, Dowzo, come in. The door opens slowly. A small face appears in the gap. Dark hair tangled from sleep. Dark eyes, uncertain. The tanuki held against her chest like a shield. Hannah, she has never come to his office. Has never sought him out willingly. Hannah, can I come in? Ryu setting his pen down, of course? She slips inside. Closes the door. Stands there for a moment, small and uncertain. Her bandaged feet shuffling against the floor. Then she walks to the leather chair across from his desk and climbs onto it. Her legs dangle. She looks impossibly small. Ryu waits. He has learned Emma needs time, needs space, needs to find her own path to the words. Hannah, I want to tell you something. A beat so you know why I'm bad. The words hit Ryu like a blow to the sternum. Why I'm bad? He says nothing, just waits. Hannah stares at the tanuki's worn face, not meeting his eyes. Hannah, my Okasan's name, was Haru. Like spring. She loved tanuki. She bought this one before I was born. Her fingers traced the torn ear. It was supposed to be my first toy. But she never got to give it to me, because she stops. Her small body trembles. Hannah, because I killed her. Asterisk, the story comes slowly, in pieces, the way a child tells the worst things, not all at once. But in the careful way of someone who has learned that the full weight of the truth can knock people over. Her mother died in childbirth. There was too much bleeding. The doctors couldn't stop it. She died before she ever held her daughter. Her father, a salaryman, gentle, quiet, raised Hannah alone. He loved her. He always told her so. He read her stories, packed her a bento box, took her to the park on Sundays. But when he thought she wasn't watching, he would stare at her mother's photograph and weep silently. She could hear him through the walls at night. I tried to make him happy, Hannah says. I tried so hard to be good enough to make up for what I cost him. It never worked. When Hannah was 4, her father was killed in an industrial accident at the factory where he worked. A machine. A moment gone. A woman came to the apartment that evening. She spoke to Hannah very carefully, very slowly. She used the word suiyu. Passed on. He wasn't coming home after that. Hannah was sent to Aunt Noriko, her mother's younger sister, a woman she barely knew, a woman who had met her twice. At first it was okay, Hannah says. She was kind. She made me ochazuke for breakfast. She brushed my hair. She told me everything would be all right. For a little while. Thought maybe I could have a family again then. Aunt Noriko met someone. A man named Hiroshi Kato. He was charming. He smiled. He brought Noriko gifts. He told Hannah she was cute. He changed, Hannah says. After they got married, he drank a lot. The bottles in the brown bag, it made him angry. The first time he hit her, she had spilled tea on the tatami. She hadn't meant to. Her hands were shaking from trying so hard to be careful. He called her stupid, clumsy, a waste. He said she ate too much, cost too much, took up too much space. He said Noriko should have left her at the orphanage. I tried to eat less, Hannah says. I only ate half my meals. I hid the rest so he wouldn't say I was greedy, but it was never enough. When she did something wrong, spilled something, made noise, forgot a chore, he would take her to the storage room under the kitchen. Dark, no windows, no light. He would lock the door and leave her there. Sometimes one day, sometimes two, sometimes three. No food, no water, just dark and cold. I would scream, bang on the door, beg him to let me out. I promised I would be good, promised I would never make mistakes. Nobody came. I screamed until my voice stopped working, and still nobody came. Ryu's hands are shaking beneath his desk. He presses them flat against his thighs. When he was very angry, he used his belt. Hannah continues, her voice going flat and empty, the voice of a child who has learned to narrate her own suffering from a great distance. And when I cried, he burned me. The room seems to lose all air. He had cigarettes. He would press one against my arm and hold it there until I stopped crying. He said it was so I would remember not to cry. Big girls don't cry. Only babies cry. And if I was going to act like a baby, he would give me something to really cry about. She looks at the 7 small scars on her forearm, so I learned not to cry. Even when it hurt so much I couldn't breathe. I learned to be quiet, to be invisible, to take up no space at all. Asterisk Hannah, voice dropping to a whisper. Aunt Noriko knew. She saw the marks. She would look at me with these sad eyes. Sometimes she cried. A pause, but she never stopped him. Her voice goes flat, harder. She just watched, and cried, and did nothing. Then one night Hannah heard them talking. Hiroshi had been drinking more than usual. He had lost money. A lot of money, gambling. He said she was worthless. A burden, a mouth to feed. He said he knew people who paid money for girls her age. He said she was young enough to bring a good price. Hannah didn't understand all the words, but she understood enough. Hannah barely audible. He wanted to sell me. Like a toy. Like a thing. Her tears are silent. She has learned to cry without making sound. Hannah that night, he passed out on the sofa. Aunt Noriko locked herself in their room, and I climbed out the storage room window, her hands twist in her lap. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, cold. He had taken my shoes. He said I didn't deserve shoes until I earned them. I didn't know where to go. I walked for 3 days, slept in train station bathrooms, ate from convenience store trash. People looked at me like I was invisible, like I was something dirty they didn't want near them. Her voice breaks completely, and then I saw your restaurant. All the warm gold light, and I thought maybe someone there would want me. She finally looks up at Ryu. Her eyes are shattered, ancient, the eyes of a child who has carried the weight of grown people's cruelty since she was old, enough to understand language. Hannah, I didn't want money. I didn't want food. I just wanted someone, anyone, to want me, to look at me and not see a burden, barely a whisper. I walked for 3 days. I just knew I didn't want to be sold. Silence. Ryu has not moved throughout her story. His expression has not changed, but his hands hidden beneath the desk tell the truth. Curled into fists so tight his knuckles are white, nails biting into his palms, hard enough to draw blood. 20 years of walls, 20 years of cold, 20 years of becoming something that could not be hurt. And this child, this broken, starving, tortured child, has shattered all of it with her quiet, careful words. Hannah misreads his stillness. She sees his controlled expression and understands it the only way she knows. How he is angry, disappointed. She has been too much trouble. She has asked for too much. Her head drops. She makes herself small. Hannah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have told you all that. I know I'm a lot of trouble. I understand if you don't want me here anymore. I can leave. I won't make a fuss. I just Ryu stands. Hana flinches. Braces for anger. For rejection. For the cold, he walks around the desk slowly, deliberately, each step measured, as if he is afraid of frightening her. He stops in front of her chair, and then Ryu Tanaka, the Black Hawk. The man before whom grown men trembled does something he has not done since he was 17 years old. He kneels, and he wraps his arms around her. Hana goes completely rigid. Every muscle, every nerve, every cell locks up, every instinct screaming that this is wrong. That touch means pain, that arms around her mean trapped. No. One has hugged her since her father died. No. One has held her with gentleness instead of violence. She doesn't know what to do. But Ryu doesn't. Let go. He holds her carefully. Gently, his large frame curved around her small one like a shield. Not too tight. Not trapping. Just steady and slowly. So slowly. Hana's rigid. Body begins to release. Her tiny arms lift, hesitate, then wrap around his neck. She holds on the way a person holds on to the only solid thing. In a world that has always been water beneath her feet, she doesn't cry. She has no tears left for fear, but her small body trembles against his, and her fingers grip his shirt so hard the fabric stretches. Are why you low, rough, fierce, listen to me. Hana, she pulls back just enough to see his face. His eyes are burning with something she has never seen in any adult's face. Not anger, not pity, something older than both. Something that looks to a child who has never had it like protection. RYU, he will never touch you again. A beat, these are not comforting words. They are a vow. No one will ever lock you in darkness again. No one will ever burn you. No one will ever make you feel like you are worthless. His hands cup her small face. His thumbs move across her cheeks. Ryu, I promise you, Hana, on everything I am. On everything I have. I promise. Hana stares at him. She has heard promises before. From Aunt Noriko. From social workers. From strangers who said they would help, but looking at Ryu's face now, she sees something she has never seen in any of them. Truth, Hana, tiny. Fragile, the bravest question she has ever asked Tanaka-san. She swallows, Can I stay here with you? The question hangs in the air, weighted with every door that has ever closed in her face, every time she has been sent away. Every time she has been too much and not enough, Ryu looks at her. This child who has walked through hell and still has enough hope left to ask, or why you quietly for as long as you want. This is your home now. Hana's lower lip trembles, and then, for the first time since Hiroshi Kato first raised his hand, she smiles, small, fragile, barely there. Real asterisk, 3 weeks passed. And Kurohane changed. It started with small things. A child's laughter in the kitchen before dawn. Small drawings pinned to the staff board. A stool by the prep counter that was always waiting. Hana stopped hiding food. Not all at once, the habit was too deep for that. But day by day, the crackers disappeared from her pockets. The mochi stayed on the tray. She still slept in the corner some nights. Still flinched at sudden sounds. Still went quiet when strangers came too close. But the shadows in her eyes were fading. Uncle Tony, Auntie Jin, had booked her flight to Busan, Yuki. Harada had started calling her niece in private. Kenji, 6'3", of Enforcer, had learned a secret handshake so elaborate it took 4 minutes to complete and made Hana giggle every single time. Don't tell anyone. I have a reputation, Pinky promised. And with Ryu, she followed him now. To his office, where she colored while he worked. To the dining room, where she helped him inspect tables with exaggerated seriousness. To the kitchen, where she showed him her latest culinary creation. Tanaka-san, look what Auntie Jin taught me. Tanaka-san, Yuki-san says my hiragana is getting better. Tanaka-san, can I show you something? The nickname came from nowhere, the way children's language evolves. One morning it was Tanaka-san, and by afternoon it had become simply Hana holding up a drawing room scene. Look, I drew us. No one corrected her. On the 21st day, she brought him a drawing. A house with a red roof. 2 figures, a tall one with black hair and a small one with dark pigtails. A tanuki at their feet. Bright sunshine from a blue sky at the bottom, in careful, wobbly hiragana. My family are why you looked at it for a long time. Then he stood. Walked to the wall behind his desk, the wall he had always kept bare. Because sentiment was weakness, and weakness was death, and pinned it in the center. Ryu, it's beautiful. Hannah, eyes wide, you're keeping it forever. Are why you forever. And he meant it. Asterisk, the dinner service. Hannah in the kitchen with Auntie Jin tasting soup and getting more of it on her shirt than in her mouth. The dining room warm with the usual symphony of Tokyo's best citizens. Everything normal, everything warm, everything finally good. Then Kenji's phone rings. He answers. Listens for 3 seconds. His face goes pale. He finds Ryu in the corridor. Kenji, his voice like stones dropping. Boss, a beat Hiroshi Kato just walked through our front door. Asterisk Hiroshi. Kato moves through the entrance the way. Men like him always move with the performance of confidence. And the reality of desperation underneath. He is thin. Narrow-faced, mid-40s, with hair slicked back over a receding line. His suit is expensive and ill-fitting. He smells of cigarettes and the particular cologne of men who need to appear to be more than they are. He approaches the reception station with a smile that doesn't connect to his eyes. Hiroshi smooth. Practiced good evening. I'm looking for my niece, Hannah. 6 years old, dark hair, dark eyes. I believe she may be staying here. We've been absolutely devastated. The poor child, she has episodes. She runs away. She makes up stories. The hostess blinks. Yuki Harada appears from the corridor. Her heels click. Her face gives nothing. Yuki, I'm sorry, and you are? Hiroshi Kato, her legal guardian. He produces folded papers from his jacket. Yuki taking the papers without looking at them, I see. I'll need to speak with the owner. Please wait here. She disappears through the service door. Hiroshi's smile fades the moment she's gone. His eyes sweep the room, calculating, searching. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of looking. And finally, the service door opens. Ryu Tanaka walks out slow, deliberate. Each step with the unhurried certainty of someone who knows exactly how this ends. Hiroshi's smile rebuilds itself on his face. Hiroshi, Mr. Tanaka, thank you for your time. I was just explaining, I'm here for my niece. I have documentation. The child has a troubled history, which can be quite manipulative. Ryu quietly, there is no one by that name here. A beat, Hiroshi blinks. Hiroshi, I'm sorry. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I have legal paperwork. She's my responsibility, and I have every right, Ryu, I said. There is no one by that name here. Something shifts behind Hiroshi's eyes. The charm cracks. The real man beneath, the one who locks children in dark rooms, surfaces. Hiroshi stepping closer. His voice hardening, you can't keep her from me. I have rights. Legal rights. She's my property. Ryu, a word like a blade touching bone. Property, Hiroshi stops. Ryu, you called her property. The dining room has gone completely quiet. Every table, every staff member watching. And behind Ryu, emerging from the corridor, 2 men in dark suits, Kenji arms crossed, silent. The particular stillness of someone waiting for permission. Hiroshi recalculates. He knows when to retreat. Hiroshi tight, barely controlled. Fine, I'll go. For now, he turns to leave, then stops. But I'll be back, Tanaka-san. With police, with lawyers, with court orders, that girl belongs to me. And I always collect what's mine. He walks out into the Shinjuku night. The glass door closes. Ryu stands still, watching until Hiroshi disappears into the neon and the dark. Then, quietly, why you find everything. By morning, Kenji pulls out his phone. And in the kitchen, behind the prep counter where Auntie Jin has already pushed her, Hana sits curled in a ball, the tanuki pressed to her face. Trembling, she has seen him through the pass-through window. The monster found her. It was always going to find her, asterisk. Kenji's report is methodical, thorough. Hiroshi Kato, 44, born in Nagoya. Moved to Tokyo 6 years ago. Married Noriko Imai, Hana's maternal aunt, 3 years ago. Employment history, 4 jobs in 5 years, all ended in dismissal. Currently unemployed. Income, Noriko's salary. The foster subsidy from the state, 80,000 yen per month, meant for Hana's food, clothing, education. None of it ever reached her. Gambling debts, 4 million yen, owed to a private lending operation with connections to the Yamamoto faction. He has been evading them for 5 months. Prior domestic incident with a previous partner reported, then withdrawn. She moved away with no forwarding address. And then the insurance policy. Hana's father, Takeshi Imai, factory worker, 31 years old when he died, had a life insurance policy. 12 million yen. Held in trust for Hana until she turns 20 as legal guardian. Hiroshi has limited access. If something were to happen to Hana before then, Kenji, he gets the full payout. Ryu is very still. Kenji. There's one more thing. He's been watching the restaurant. Our people spotted him yesterday. Parked across the street, making phone calls. He'll move soon. He's desperate. The Yamamoto people are closing in. A pause, he needs that money. One way or another, Ryu looks out at the city lights. Narrator, VO, a different man would call the police. File reports. Trust the system. But the system had already failed. Hana, the system had taken its monthly payments for 3 years and asked no questions. The system had failed her the way it fails every child who disappears into the cracks. Between bureaucratic forms, Ryu Tanaka was not a different man. Ryu quietly let him make his move. I want evidence. Something undeniable. He turns, and when he does, I want him brought to me. A beat softer. The voice he only uses inside these walls now, increased security around Hana. 2 people at all times. But quietly. She's finally starting to feel safe. Let her have that for as long as we can give it to her. Asterisk light snow falls soft and silent over the park across from Kurahane. The kind of snowfall that makes the city quiet, that smooths the edges of things. Hana walks beside Auntie Jin, her small hand tucked into Sujin's larger one. She is wearing a new coat, bright yellow. It's the warmest thing she has ever owned. In real shoes, the tanuki peeks from under her other arm. Hana pointing Auntie Jin. Look, that crow has something shiny. Su and Karasu are collectors, little one. They love bright things. Hana, like me, I love bright things too. I found a yen coin this morning, and it was so shiny I kept it. Sujin laughs. They walk past the frozen fountain. Past the bare winter trees. Hana points at everything, a cat on a stone wall, pigeons in a group. The way frost makes patterns on the iron bench. She is happy, truly. Completely happy. Then the van appears, black, windowless. It jumps the curb with a screech of tires, skids to a stop 20 feet away. The side door opens. 2 men step out. Sujin's body reacts before her mind does. 12 years in Ryu Tanaka's world, she shoves Hana behind her. Su-Jin fierce Nijet. Run, run, Hana. But Hana cannot move. All she can see is the van, black, windowless. All she can hear, in the part of her brain that stores the worst memories, is a story that lives in Ryu's eyes every time he looks at her, a story he has never told her. But she has felt in the weight of his silences, a black van, a little girl. Hands reaching out, the first man reaches Sujin. She is 52 years old and built for a kitchen. Not a fight, but she grew up in the back alleys of Osaka, and she has not forgotten how to defend what matters. She puts her elbow into the man's face with everything she has. He staggers. The second man is faster. Something connects with Sujin's ribs. She doubles over. A hand grabs her hair. She goes down onto the cold paving stones. Hana screaming Auntie Jin. The first man recovers. Turns toward Hana, reaches. Come here, you little. Then chaos. They come from everywhere, from behind the park hedge, from the parked cars along the lane, from shadows that seemed empty moments before. Kenji at the front, moving with military precision, expressionless, lethal. He takes the first kidnapper from behind. A choke that drops him in seconds. Asterisk, the second man turns, sees the wall of what's coming, and runs. He doesn't get far. The whole thing takes less than 30 seconds. Kenji crouches before Hannah, who stands frozen in the snow. Eyes wide and glassy dot. Kenji low, careful Hannah, it's me. It's Kenji, you're safe. They didn't take you. You're safe. She doesn't respond. Her small body is trembling so hard she can barely stand. She had thought she was safe. She was wrong. Kenji straightens. One of his men hands him a phone taken from the first kidnapper. One text message, received 2 hours ago. From HK to grab the girl. Bring her back. Don't damage the merchandise. She's worth more intact. Merchandise? Kenji dials, Kenji. Quiet, flat. They made their move. 2 men, black van, attempted grab in the park. A beat Jinsen took a beating protecting her. She'll live. Hannah is unharmed. Pause. We have the phone. We have the message. In writing, the silence on the other end, then RYUVO, barely above a whisper, bring them to the warehouse. Find Kato. Asterisk. The second man turns, sees the wall of what's coming, and runs. He doesn't get far. The whole thing takes less than 30 seconds. Kenji crouches before Hannah, who stands frozen in the snow. Eyes wide and glassy dot. Kenji low, careful Hannah, it's me. It's Kenji, you're safe. They didn't take you. You're safe. She doesn't respond. Her small body is trembling so hard she can barely stand. She had thought she was safe. She was wrong. Kenji straightens. One of his men hands him a phone taken from the first kidnapper. One text message, received 2 hours ago. From HK to grab the girl. Bring her back. Don't damage the merchandise. She's worth more intact. Merchandise? Kenji dials, Kenji. Quiet, flat. They made their move. 2 men, black van, attempted grab in the park. A beat Jinsen took a beating protecting her. She'll live. Hannah is unharmed. Pause. We have the phone. We have the message. In writing, the silence on the other end, then RYUVO, barely above a whisper, bring them to the warehouse. Find Kato. Asterisk. The interrogation is thorough, precise. Ryu lays out every document, every photograph, every record, spread on the cold concrete floor for Hiroshi to see. 3 years of fraud, the foster payments, the gambling debts, the insurance policy, the text message, don't damage the merchandise. She's worth more intact. RYU standing directly before him. Quiet. Cold, you burned cigarettes into the skin of a 6-year-old child. 7 times, deliberately. While she screamed and begged you to stop, Hiroshi's legs. RYU, you locked her in darkness with no food and no water for days at a time. You let her scream until her voice failed, and then you left her there. A pause. You beat her with your belt until her back was nothing but scars. You broke her ribs and didn't take her to a doctor. You made her believe she was worthless, made her apologize for existing, made her think that if she was quiet enough, small enough, invisible enough, maybe you wouldn't hurt her again. Leaning closer, barely a whisper, and when all of that wasn't enough, you tried to sell her. Hiroshi's knees buckle. 2 men hold him upright. Hiroshi sobbing, please. I'll do anything. I'll disappear. Just Ryu, you're right. You will disappear. He produces a document, legal, precise, RYU. Will sign a full relinquishment of all guardianship and parental rights over. Anna, tonight, you will leave Tokyo by tomorrow morning. You will never return. You will never speak her name. You will forget she exists. A beat, because if I ever see your face again, if I ever hear that you've come within 100 kilometers of that child, I won't give you another opportunity. Soft eye. Will simply contact the people you owe 4 million yen to, and tell them exactly where to find you. Hiroshi collapses to his knees on the concrete floor. Weeping, Hiroshi through tears, I'll sign everything. Please, or why you too, Kenji, get him a pen. Book him a one-way train to Osaka tonight. He leaves on the last Shinkansen. He turns and walks toward the door. Behind him, Hiroshi Kato weeps on the cold floor of a warehouse at the edge of Tokyo's dark water, signing away every claim he ever had to the little girl who escaped. Asterisk. The courtroom is smaller than Hana imagined. Wood-paneled walls. Fluorescent lights. Rows of benches that remind her of the inside of a temple. She sits in the front row, her legs dangling. She is wearing a new dress, pale pink with small white cranes. The first piece of clothing she has ever owned that was bought just for her. Her hair is braided with tiny pearl clips that Yuki spent an hour perfecting that morning. The tanuki sits in her lap, wearing a small bow tie fashioned from a silk napkin ribbon by Auntie Jin. For the occasion, even tanuki must be formal for court. Hana doesn't fully understand what is happening today. She knows it is important. She knows everyone is nervous, even Kenji, who has checked his watch 11 times in the last hour. She knows it has something to do with a word she barely dares think. Family, the proceedings move through their formal stages. Noriko Imaya has signed away her guardianship without contest, too frightened of Ryu Tanaka to appear, too ashamed to argue. With Noriko's relinquishment and Hiroshi's exile, Hana has officially become a ward of the state, an orphan. The word should feel like an ending. Instead, it feels like a door, because Ryu Tanaka filed for adoption the same morning. The process was complicated, but documents have a way of smoothing out when the right hands touch them. Dr. Saito submitted a 12-page report. Yuki Harada provided testimony. Sujin Park wept openly on the witness stand, describing the first morning she made tanuki onigiri for a little girl eating from the garbage. She called me Auntie Jin, Sujin told the court, dabbing her eyes. The first morning? Just like that. Like she'd always known me. The presiding judge is a woman in her 60s, with silver hair and careful eyes. She looks at... Nah, Jay, gently, Hana-chan. Do you understand what's happening today? Hana nods. Her fingers tighten around the tanyu. Can you tell me in your own words what you want? The courtroom goes still. Hana looks at the judge. Then, at Auntie Jin, crying quietly in the second row, at Yuki, who is blinking very rapidly, at Kenji by the door, his arms crossed, his face suspiciously bright. Finally, she looks at Ryu. He sits beside her, still, patient, his eyes soft in the way that only she ever sees. He doesn't prompt her, just waits. Hana takes a breath. Hana, I want to stay with Rusan. Her voice grows stronger. He makes me feel safe. He never hurts me. He sits with me when I have nightmares, and he doesn't get angry when I'm scared. He's not like the other grown-ups. A pause. He keeps his promises. He said I could stay forever, and I... She looks down at the tanuki. I've never had a forever before. So quiet. Barely there, please. The judge is quiet for a long moment. Then she smiles. Warm. Genuine. The smile of someone who has finally seen something good after too many years of the other kind. Judge. It is the ruling of this court that the petition for adoption is granted. She looks at Hana. Hana Amai. From this day forward, your full legal name is Hana Tanaka. Ryu Tanaka is hereby recognized as your father. With all the rights and responsibilities that entails father, the word hangs in the air like light. Hana turns to Ryu, her dark eyes enormous. Hana, barely a whisper I have. A real dad? Ryu slides off the bench. He kneels in front of her, the same way he knelt in the rain outside. Kurohne. The same way he knelt beside her during the nightmares always. Always at her level. Ryu, you have a real dad. Forever, Hana's face crumples. She throws herself into his arms, and for the first time, since the day her father died, for the first time in years of darkness and burning and being locked away, she cries with joy, real, pure, unguarded joy. Ryu holds her tight in the gallery. Everyone cries with her. Asterisk, they return at sunset. There are children who appear in our lives like questions we didn't know we needed to answer, who stand in the rain and ask the simplest, most devastating things, not for money, not for food, but for the one thing we forget costs nothing to give: to be wanted, to matter, to belong. Hannah had walked 3 days through a cold city, asking if anyone would take her. She had offered the only currency she knew: her willingness to be useful, her promise to be small, her hope that being good enough might finally be enough. She had not known, standing barefoot in the snow outside a restaurant full of warm light, that inside was a man who had been waiting 20 years for the chance to keep a promise. That some losses shape us into the exact shape of what someone else needs. That the girl who asked if anyone wanted a child had found the man who needed one just as much. Forever is a long time. They'd both been waiting for it long enough. There are children who appear in our lives like questions we didn't know we needed to answer, who stand in the rain and ask the simplest, most devastating things, not for money, not for food, but for the one thing we forget costs nothing to give: to be wanted, to matter, to belong. She had not known, standing barefoot in the snow outside a restaurant full of warm light, that inside was a man who had been waiting 20 years for the chance to keep a promise he hadn't been old enough to keep. That some losses shape us into the exact shape of what someone else needs. That the girl who asked if anyone wanted a child had found the man who needed one just as much. Forever is a long time. They'd both been waiting for it long enough.